You're listening to the Impact Driver Podcast, a production of the Climbing Business Journal, where we explore the ideas, people, and pressures shaping the route setting industry. I'm your host, Holly Chen. I am a route setter, journalist, and contributing writer at the CBJ. This episode was brought to you by Waltopia, Trango, Cascade Specialties, the Climbing Wall Association, and Rooney. Hey, Kate, where are you calling from today?
So I am currently in Bend, Oregon.
Nice. Can you tell the audience about you in one sentence? Just give me your name, pronouns if you have them, and what do you do now?
Yeah. So I'm Cate Beebe. I use she, her pronouns. And I am a climber, route setter, coach, kind of all of the above.
As it happens in the climbing industry, I feel like all of us wear a lot of different hats, and that's, a pro, maybe, and a con of the industry, but we'll dive into that today. Before we dive into the topic, I want to kind of give the audience a little bit of a picture of who you are. Do you want to tell us a little bit of your climbing history? Where'd you start, how you start, any notable things that you wanted to share with the audience?
Yeah, definitely. So I originally from the East Coast, actually. Up in Vermont was kind of where I started climbing rocks outside. So that was kind of how I got my start in the climbing industry. Started climbing a little bit in a gym in Minneapolis when I lived there, and then moved to Vermont for school, and was just so stoked on climbing rocks outside. There was a little gym that's been there for a long time in Burlington called Petroglyphs, and started climbing at Petroglyphs, was obsessed immediately with all of the rocks, all of the people. The community was awesome. And yeah, just started climbing there, and pretty immediately started climbing rocks with the route setting crew, and they knew that I had a background in youth development. I was a camp counselor. I'd coached before, so started coaching there as well. So Petra is kind of where I got my start in all of this. And after that, I was there for about 5.5 years, and then moved out west in 2022, which, right post-COVID world, which was a time.
A time, for sure.
Yeah, it was a time. Moved to Bend 2022, started working at Bend Rock Gym as a route setter, and started working for Bend Endurance Academy as a coach. At the time, BEA didn't have their own facility, so I was kind of doing both things, coaching for BEA and then route setting for Bend Rock Gym. Did that for about 1.5 years, and then BEA acquired a facility in Bend, started doing youth-specific setting, and had our own facility there, and couldn't quite do all of the things all at once, so stopped setting at Bend Rock Gym, and now I'm just at Bend Endurance Academy, doing all of the things.
Amazing.
Yeah,
that's quite a journey.
Thank you.
I know a lot of people, a lot of friends who come from the East Coast and Minneapolis, and actually we had a few guests on here who come from that same region as well. In terms of your setting and coaching history, do you want to give me kind of a more detailed who, what, when, where, why of how you got into this, and basically how your career progressed leading up to this point of what you're doing now?
Yeah, for sure. So I started setting at Petra, like I said, and that was just intro to how to route set, put holds on wall, kind of like what makes a cool boulder. And I did a lot of experimentation, and I'm sure the membership base was not the most stoked with every single boulder I put on the wall. And a lot of that kind of phase of my route setting was really informed by the boulders I was climbing outside. I wasn't doing comp stuff really all that much. We did some QEs at Petra back when they were still like the local events, and but the majority of that route setting was very much like, these members are all climbing outside at Smugs or in Bolton, and they want stuff that is going to prepare them for outdoors. So yeah, kind of very outdoor focused, lots of crimps. And then I was just so stoked on route setting, wanted to learn everything I possibly could about route setting and how to make myself a better route setter. So ended up in a L1 in 2017, 2018. I need to fact check myself on that one.
All good.
Editing.
I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember when I got mine either.
There was an L1 at some point.
Yes.
2017 or 2018, can't remember. Yeah, so got my L1 because I was just like really excited about professional development opportunities within route setting, and started trying to get into as much of the comp stuff as I possibly could, and kind of around that time was starting to figure out like, okay, I think I really want to be a comp route setter, because we also had a competitive team that climbed out of Petra. So kind of those two things were starting to line up, and started applying for the L2. Never got it while I was in Vermont, and it was just a very, it's a super competitive, it's even more competitive
Absolutely.
now than it was then.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of trying to figure out how to progress that side of my career, and had started looking around probably 2021, late 2021, for jobs that were not in Vermont, and just somewhere where I could potentially progress that more, and landed in Bend, Oregon. Bend Rock Gym specifically had a really, really good head route setter at the time, Sean Harris, who's an L4. I believe he's now he's in Denver now, doing stuff with movement. But he was the head route setter at the time, and really kind of took me under his wing and was like, okay, everything is not just a crimp. We don't have to exist in the land of 4-inch by 2-inch holds. Here's some macros. Let's figure out what to do with macros and volumes and comp style movement. And my mind was blown that was an option, because I was coming from a very like outdoor gym, and we have like a pretty small hold selection, and we're doing a really good job with what we have, but it is also a little bit older. The membership base wants something very different. So changing kind of the mindset towards route setting as I started becoming a little more compy, was just a really cool, fun transition. And props to Sean for helping me figure out what a macro was. Shout out Sean Harris. Thank you. And then, yeah, so I spent about 1.5 years working with Sean. And then when BEA acquired our facility now, that is youth specific, so we don't have adult members coming in all the time, so it's basically just for youth climbers. And we had Joey Jansen, who's also a L4, and now he's Ocelot holds as well.
Yeah.
Shout out Ocelot, we love you. Joey was in our program as the head route setter for a while, and he definitely started kind of helping me figure out how to set so specifically for comp stuff, whether that was like mock rounds in the gym, or hey, we're gonna set like this ridiculous slab thing that we don't know if it even goes, and we'll just put the kids on it and then tweak it and then try it, and then the kids will get on it and then they'll try it. And so the process is, as we kind of grew into this space, I think definitely changed a lot as we just figured out how to set for kids, because not a lot of places do that other than like ABC, and like Rock City I can also think of, but not a, and Class 5 I believe also has like their own space, but there's not a lot of people doing that, and definitely no one that I know of that's also a nonprofit that's doing that, so that also just is a whole nother can of worms. But yeah, that's kind of how I arrived in Compland. Yeah, eventually got my L2 while I was out here, and then L3 a little while after that.
Amazing.
So, yeah, currently
Yeah.
L3. Done a lot of QEs, a lot of regionals, a lot of divisionals. Yeah, it's been a grand old ride.
Do you set for adult comps ever?
I don't. I have set several over the past 9 years. But I just love setting for kids, dude. It's so fun.
It is. I empathize with that. Like the challenge of it, it's just very different than setting for adults. Like it feels
It's
more
so
intentional
different.
in a way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they're
Yeah.
always doing something different.
I know.
Kids are just, they're so creative. And I think
Yeah, they're
that's,
super creative. Mm-hmm.
part of the
Yeah.
challenge, part of the fun.
For sure. Agreed. Kind of just rounding out the intro questions here. What do you like to do outside of work, outside of climbing? Like, I know this is kind of a hard question because myself, as a route setter, in my free time, I go rock climb.
Yep.
Like for most people, that's kind of the case. But yeah, do you have any hobbies that you'd like to share with the audience?
Yeah.
Things that are
Yeah, for sure. I'm super into pottery right now. I've been throwing. That's super fun. 90% of what I make is stuff that I smush and put back in the pile of clay, but that's fine. I think it's super cool to have a hobby that is not product based. Like, yeah, sure, there's a thing at the end of the day, maybe, but it's not. You don't have to be perfect, and it's just
yeah. No, I love that.
It's
It's
great.
like it's for you. Yeah, it's like the mug or whatever it is. It's for you or for your family or for your friends.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've been
And
wanting
even
to
if
get
it's-
into pottery.
It's just so fun, dude. And even if you don't end up with anything at the end of the day, it's like kind of about the process of just, I'm gonna sit here and focus on this one thing and let my brain just wander. So that's been super cool to be into pottery again. The last time that happened was like high school, so that's been a fun hobby. And then I dabble in mountain biking. I'm very bad at it, and also I'm scared, but it's fun.
Mountain biking is terrifying. I've done it once,
It's so
and
scary.
I think it's good for me. I don't need to do it again.
Yeah,
I was just trying
it's
not to
very
die the
fun.
entire time.
I like to be in
Yeah.
the trees. I like to get a cardio workout in, but I'm not doing any sort of like double black diamond shenanigans. I'm just gonna go out in the woods and bike around, and that's super fun.
Yeah.
So.
Honestly, that's how I feel about skiing. I'm like, I can get down a mountain alive. That's it.
Yeah, nailed it.
Do I do it with style? No.
No.
But I am alive at the bottom of it.
We all survive the adventure sports.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
And
love
then
that.
oh my god. Then I read a lot. That's my other
Yeah.
thing. So
Yeah, I think for sure reading is a good rest day activity. Like we
Yes.
do so much with our bodies and we just need an activity that doesn't involve running around or jumping around or disturbing our skin.
yes,
Yeah.
reading
Okay,
is a good one for that.
For sure. Yeah, I agree. This episode was brought to you by Cascade Specialty. Since 1999, Cascade Specialty has installed and refurbished top-quality flooring for both rope and bouldering areas. Learn more at cascadespecialty.com. Okay, so today I want to talk to you about, so many things, but primarily I want to talk to you about the intersection between coaching and route setting. Because I feel like the industry can agree that these two professions is a great mix, especially for people like you and I who love setting for kids or have a gym with a lot of kids in them with a youth team. And I always find that a lot of people have this combo, but not a lot of them do them at a very high level for both disciplines. And that's kind of why I brought you on, because I know that you do both at a very high level. So I have so many questions. The first one being, do you see yourself as a setter first or a coach first? Or is that kind of like a blended thing and you don't separate them?
This is such a hard question. At the end of the day, I think that I would say I see myself as a coach first. Because I was a coach first. So I coached actually rowing before I was ever a climber.
Oh, okay.
So I was a rower first. and then I was a rowing coach, and then I was a climber, and then I was a climbing coach. And setting and coaching climbing kind of came at a very similar time. But I would say probably coaching first, because it also informs a lot of what I'm doing with the setting as well. So I would say coach first.
Coach first. All right.
Yeah.
What does a typical week look like for you? Like, how do you split your time between coaching and setting? And, what your role looks like on a day-to-day?
Yeah. So a typical in-season week. So right now we're in off-season. World's just happened. We're kind of chilling for a month and a half.
All done.
Yeah. Things are happening. We're in summer. It's great.
Exactly.
But in a typical in-season week, at BEA, we've been setting twice a week. So that first day of the week on Tuesdays, we're setting a full mock round for the comp team. So that's 4 boulders per category. Sometimes we're stacking categories. So like the 15s and the 17s, or the 17s and the 19s, or 17s minus this hold equals 19s. So typically Tuesdays, mock round days. We run the mock round on Wednesday, and then Thursdays are kind of fill-in days, and we're filling in for like the elementary development team, the rec teams, kinder climb, middle school development team, and those aren't necessarily a mock round per se, but they're more like climbs that are going to teach those kids on those specific teams something for the week. And then also coaching. So I've been coaching 3 times a week, 3 or 4, depending on if there's comp that weekend, going to comps. But have 3-hour practices for the kids. And then I also coach the OSU collegiate team, OSU Cascades. So
gotcha.
that's once a week for me. So
yeah. Was there a specific point in your career where you started to see coaching and setting as like very interconnected? Or did it, you said that you started coaching first. So how did that connection start to build for you?
Yeah, I think they've always been really connected for me because I did start, especially within climbing, like I started those 2 things at a very similar time. But especially once I moved out here and started coaching and setting for BEA, those 2 things are so integral now. I think because the inspiration for coaching, a lot of that comes from setting for me. And then the inspiration for setting, a lot of that comes from coaching for me. So I think the inspiration for both of those are just totally
very
intertwined. Yeah, they're so blended.
I love that.
So I think I just started as a coach and would still kind of self-identify more as coach. But at this point, they're kind of the same thing. Which is kind of crazy.
I wanna dive into your coaching philosophy a bit, because you mentioned that you work with kinder climb. These are teeny tiny kids to the college climbing team, and this is a wide range of developmental stages, motivation, what success looks like, and so that's such a wealth of information in one person, you. And to start with the basics, what is the one thing you might teach a newer coach? If I came to you and I'm like, hey, Cate, I don't know anything about coaching and I would like to start. Like, what is the one thing that you might teach someone who is new?
I think the most important thing, regardless of what level or age or development you're working with, is just adaptability. No practice is ever going to go exactly to plan. And being able to hone in on, okay, the kids are so stoked on this one thing that we're doing right now, and let's lean into that and let's dive farther into that. Or, okay, they're just not into whatever we're doing right now. How do we change it? How do we make it more interesting? How do we, shift gears? And I think that ability to adapt and be flexible is probably the single best thing that you can kind of teach a newer coach, because you can always just give someone a practice plan and be like, here's the thing we're going to do today. Do it. But then if you can't adapt to the kids that you have in front of you, they're never going to engage fully. They're never going to get as much out of the practice as they possibly can. So just being able to be adaptable to the situation you have in front of you, regardless of age or ability level.
I kind of wish I'd heard that advice early on in my career. When I first started, before I was a setter, I just did recreational coaching. A lot of the time that happens to be like a little baby city. You know, these kids are not fully climbers. You don't know if they like climbing. And there's always one kid, like little Bubba here or there, that's derailing the whole thing. And I would just get so stressed. I'm like, oh God, we're not following the practice plan that my boss wrote. And oh God, little Bubba's running over there and, you know, eating chalk.
Yep. We've all been there.
And adaptability. I really like that advice. So what would success look like for you as a coach, though? Or like for the coaches who are working with you? You know, I'm sure that ranges very differently from, you know, kinder climbs to college climbing teams. Like, tell me a little bit about that.
It's actually exactly the same.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
amazing. Okay.
Success for me as a coach, I want to build good kids and help good kids happen. So basically, just like, I want kids to learn how to use climbing as a way to relate to other people, to relate to peers, to relate to adults. Because climbing is one of those really crazy sports that you could have like a 10-year-old girl climbing on the same climb as some 40-year-old guy in the gym, and they're talking about beta, and they're talking about whatever. Or you have like 2 6-year-olds who are on the same climb, and maybe they don't know each other, but they're gonna talk about this one climb that they're trying, and they're gonna be friends because of that. And also, it's a way to know how to do hard stuff. And I want kids to be able to come out of our programs knowing how to do hard things, and not only how to do them, but what to do if you can't do that thing. So I want to build resilient kids who know how to do that hard thing and not fall apart if it doesn't go the way that they want. And at the end of the day, that is what I want. And cool, maybe they're also climbing really hard rocks. That's awesome. Or like maybe they go on to be like at nationals, or maybe they're going on to be at Worlds, or maybe they're going on to climb really hard stuff outside. That's like the icing on the cake. But the foundation of the cake, I want to have good kids who know how to exist in the world and are resilient and can do really hard stuff, and know how to relate to other kids and other adults. So at the end of the day, that's kind of my coaching philosophy.
I love that. And, you know, you mentioning resilience, it makes me think that you're not only teaching them how to relate to other people, but also the understanding of the self, right? Like, you're saying, if I can't do this hard thing, how do I handle that? Am I going to fall apart and start crying and throwing my shoes? Or am I going to go, oh, maybe my lock off isn't good, or maybe I'm just feeling really tired and I got to give myself some grace? And I love that. It's like a double-pronged approach kind of thing. Like, climbing is such a interesting vessel for like self-reflection. Like, personally, I remember when I first started climbing and I was like, whoa, I have to think about my feelings right now, and I just want to pull really hard. Dang it. You mean it's not just about muscles, but I feel things?
Bummer. So like, we talk about feelings all the time. One of my kids, who has previously now graduated, came up to me the other day and was like, dude, you know what I like realized a couple days ago? I was like, nah, dude, what'd you realize? And he was like, I am thinking about my feelings when I climb, and I've never done that before. I think it was because of you. You asked me how I was feeling all the time. I was like, dude, that's amazing. Let's keep doing that. So just like allowing space for kids to have feelings and to then process them, not just to have them and then be like, shove that back down. Let's have that feeling, and then we'll talk about it, and then we'll process it, and then we'll figure out how to like move on from that feeling. We love that. That's adulting. I love that.
It's just, it's, you know, teaching kids, like you said, to be good people and, you know, hopefully mold them into be part of the process of making them well-rounded adults that will not shove their feelings all the way down. And just talk
we
about
love that.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's so cool to just walk with them as they're kind of figuring that out for themselves.
This episode was brought to you by Walltopia. Outdoor climbing walls create visibility and expand programming. Walltopia designs outdoor walls specially for commercial facilities. Learn more at walltopia.com. This actually leads me perfectly into my next question, because you talk about all these things of helping kids learn how to process hard feelings or do hard things, and I read somewhere else that you wanted to make the sport a place where these kids feel powerful, they feel heard, and they feel accepted. Was there a point in your career where you realized there was something missing in the current coaching industry, climbing industry, or, what leads you to this philosophy that you're describing to me right now?
Yeah, for sure. So I grew up playing youth soccer, as most people do, as like a small child. And I remember same.
Oh, yes.
Goalies for the win. I was not very good. It was fine. But I don't ever remember like a youth soccer coach being super flexible or asking us how we were feeling. And then I was rowing in high school and like late middle school, and I had a fantastic coach. I loved him. He was probably one of the more formative humans in my life as a high schooler. Just super able to emotionally connect with people, and allow us to feel what we were feeling. And that was really powerful as like a high schooler in the 2000s.
Yeah.
That was amazing. And so it wasn't necessarily that I noticed that something was missing in climbing specifically, but just that I had that experience of having such a really impactful coach as a kid. And I mean, I want to make sure that that is something that I also am able to do. And yeah, I just want to make sure that kids like have the option to be themselves and to have a safe place where they can go to like feel those feelings and work through the hard stuff, and know that there's going to be someone there to kind of help them through whatever they're going through, whether that's hard or fun or exciting or spicy or whatever. I just want them, to feel like they can explore themselves, and explore their own strength and know that they can be really strong mentally and physically, which I think is super important for kids. And
I agree.
I know that.
I agree.
Yeah, in school, like, you're not necessarily going to have this classroom of like 25 fifth graders and be like, hey kids, I want to know you as a person. Like, that I can't even imagine being a teacher in a school and trying to like personally know every one of those kids. And I'm sure, I know that there's teachers who can do that, but I don't think that's necessarily like the goal of every single teacher, or like that they just don't have time to have such a personal relationship with each kid. And so with coaching, and coaching climbing specifically, because theoretically you could have a kid come into your program at 5 and you coach them until they're 18. Like, that amount of time that you can be impactful in a kid's life is huge. Like, when you're talking about like a high school coach, like, you get them for 4 years and you can impact a lot of change in 4 years. But if you're talking about climbing, that's 13, 14, 15 years, depending on when they start. And that's a crazy long time.
It doesn't even mention that they might continue to train with you more or less like as an adult. It could be like, hey, I'm an adult and I focus on outdoor climbs now, not competition. Like, how do I change my mental, approach? And you could work with them for, in theory, I don't know, 2 decades, forever. 3 decades. Like, you could work with them forever.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Crazy.
So that's, it's just really cool to have that ability as a climbing coach, and just to let kids know that they are important and they have cool things to say and they have important things to say and they have feelings and they can feel them and they can just have a safe place to exist in the world. and just explore themselves as they're growing up into whatever adults they're going to be. So
yeah, and you mentioning your rowing coach, like I see this as kind of like a cycle, right? Someone made a really strong impact on you.
Yep.
You might make a really strong impact on somebody else. They might grow up to become a coach as well. Maybe in climbing, maybe somewhere else. They might grow up to be a mentor. Like I have an editor that I really adore, and I always tell myself, in 10 years, I want to be to someone else what Katie is to me. Like I want to be able to provide that same support, that same, all of this mentorship to somebody else. And I just see this as a cycle. Like if we do the best we can and the people we have around us, maybe the ripple effects can be, I don't know, decades long. It's crazy. Yeah.
The ripple effects. I also have some that I'm like, I want to be like you people when I grow up.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Shout out Mike Rushi. Thanks, Mike.
So many good people in our lives.
So many good humans. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Setting. Now setting. Yeah. Same question on the coaching side, but for setting. I come to you, I'm like, hey, Kate, I don't know how to route set. I've never held an impact driver before. What would you teach this person as the first thing when they step into this industry?
Less is more, I would say. And by that, I mean less holds, less overthinking, less visual clutter. And I think a lot of people when they're first into setting, and I did this also too, I think everyone does this, you overthink everything. And you're so stuck in that, like, well, I have to make this move work, or I have to make this sequence work, or I gotta force this thing.
Yeah.
Just don't overthink it. Just put some stuff on the wall and see what happens, because that's how you learn. If you can't get out of your own head enough to actually have a thing that goes on the wall that you can then try, it's really hard to get enough repetition in to be like, okay, I know how to set this move mostly. I'm now going to put it on the wall and then we'll tweak it, versus, oh my gosh, I'm trying to set this one move, but I'm trying to force it whilst still setting. So I'm just like moving stuff around without knowing actually what it feels like. Yeah, less is more. I would say.
That. Yeah, I've always wanted to teach an intro to setting clinic that's just titled The Art of Not Overthinking.
Yes.
It's exactly what you're describing. As novice setters, they get really, really like, oh my God, my first draft has to be perfect. It has to be a no tweak banger. Like, no one can touch my boulder. No, that's just not how setting works. Like, the forerunning process is so important. Yeah. Like, you can strip my boulder if you want. Like, just
take it off the wall, it'll be fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
We
like,
all
it's
do
gonna
it, dude.
disappear in 6 weeks anyway. Yeah.
It's fine. Or like a day if you're in a comp setting.
That's true.
Crazy.
Yeah. It's gone and after the comp, it's done.
Yep. Bye.
Yeah. And in terms of success as a setter, there's so many ways to define it, right? Like some people see it as more of a merit based, like, oh, I have to set nationals, I have to set a World Cup or something like that. Or, others have defined it in much broader terms of mentorship or creating opportunity and events and things like that. How do you define success as a setter for yourself?
Yeah. I think my definition kind of is both of those things combined. Like the ability to contribute to a team, like a setting team, whether that's comp or commercial stuff. Giving kids opportunities to do cool stuff, whether that's opportunities to give younger setters comp opportunities or commercial opportunities, or just, hey, you're in a comp, let's give the kids opportunities to do weird shenanigans that they've seen on a World Cup, but at their level, and they feel really cool doing it. And then mentorship is super important for me, I think also just because I am coaching so frequently. I want kids to get into setting, so we have that next generation of super psyched humans involved in route setting. Yeah. So it's such again, I think this question's one of the harder ones too, where it's just there's so many ways and so many ways to blend success, and it's just really about how you feel, what you want, and if you could distill your setting philosophy into a few words, how would you describe it? Okay. So I would say intentional movement, but perfection is irrelevant. Because intentional movement, you're creating an intention to the climber, and maybe they're going to follow that, and maybe they won't. But you're still, at the end of the day, your intention is to create something that people are going to learn from, people are going to have fun on, people are going to fall off of at appropriate times if you're in a comp setting. Mm-hmm. But perfection is irrelevant. There's no such thing as perfection. There's no such thing as a perfect boulder, in my opinion. It's just a boulder. And the perfection part, we all are striving so hard towards all the time. But it's never going to be perfect. We're never going to have, like, the perfectly forced movement where nobody can break it ever. Someone's going to have that palm down rollover, and one of those comp kids is just going to be like, sick. That's not how I'm going to do it. I'm going to skip that. So striving for, instead of perfection, striving for excellence, and not necessarily perfection. Because I think that also kind of ends up into the overthinking land, where we're just like, well, if we turned it 0.1 degree to the left, then it would be perfect. And you can go down that rabbit hole so far.
Forever. Yeah.
Forever.
You can just keep going. And it's a spiral. Yeah. Two things. One, you might have just given us the title of your podcast. Love that.
Amazing.
And two, I'm ADHD and I forgot my second point.
That's okay. Same.
Yeah.
Which is why
it will come back to me. It will come back to me.
We'll find it at some point.
Exactly. Yes. But okay. I want to, now that we've kind of defined how you approach coaching and how you approach out setting, comes to the meat of this podcast where I really want to talk about the blending of these two disciplines. Again, a lot of us are setters, coaches, a little bit of a combine. Very few of us do it at such a high level. When you walk into a setting day, are you thinking of as a coach? And same deal with when you walk into a a coaching session, are you thinking of like a setter? Like, how do these two modes interact? Do they say separate? How do they say? This question goes on forever. Tell me a little about your
For sure. I think of it a little bit like wearing two hats that I can take off and put on at will, which is really hard and something that I've had to like think about really intentionally. Specifically, going into a set day, it's majority I have that setter hat on, especially if we're in BEA or a comp-specific situation, thinking about, like, okay, what are we trying to ask of the kids with this boulder? Do we want it to be slow? Do we want it to be fast? Do we want it to be risky? Like, what are those things that we need out of this boulder? And then I'll stick the coach hat on and be like, okay, is this what they need to learn? Is this, like, appropriate for the level? Are they specifically to the kids that we have? Are they able to learn this thing in 4 minutes, knowing what I know as a coach? So, put that coach hat on, do a little pondering, and then stick the setter hat back on for the rest of that.
I love that. So they're not entirely separate, but
they're not entirely separate. Yeah.
Yeah. You do shift between the different modes.
Yeah.
Is there something that coaching has taught you about movement that you couldn't learn just by setting and vice versa? Like,
yeah, I think, like, putting that coach hat on a lot while being in setter mode, it's, I don't know, hold on. This one, I need to read my notes for this one.
That's okay, because I suddenly just remembered that second point that I was going to make.
Oh, heck yeah, let's get into that, and then I can reread my thoughts.
You were talking about the overthinking and the forcing of movement and the no perfection, right? And I remember the first time somebody broke a move that I had spent I don't know how long trying to perfect. And yes, it's just, man, one, it sucks. in the moment where you're like, oh man, I tried really hard. But two, it teaches both the climber and the setter a few things, right? The climber is seeing an intention. They go, I don't want to do it like that. I see a way that I can do it that suits my strength, and I'm going to do it that way. And the setter is learning a few things about movement, a few things about failure, a few things about, how forcing works as a whole. And it's a learning moment for everybody. And when you keep striving for that perfection, you kind of miss these learning moments. You just go, oh, I failed. I'm not perfect. Move on. I try again to be perfect. And it's a counterintuitive, it's like a counterproductive process to try to be perfect. So, yeah. Your philosophy, A+.
Thank
Love
you.
It.
Yeah. I talk about this thing called affordances a lot with Mike, who's my boss at BEA. And basically the concept is a climber or an athlete in whatever sport you're doing, you see what you think you can do. And that is maybe someone who has a crazy ape index is like, oh, I see that I think I can skip this move because of how I know. Yeah. Because of how I know, and I have all of this previous experience that's telling me, oh, I think I can do it this way, I'm gonna skip it. Whereas if you're a shorter human, or you have not a crazy ape index, you don't see that option, so you don't have that affordance because you just haven't ever been able to do that. So your brain is going to work in a different way to see what you can do. And maybe for a shorter climber, they're like, ooh, sick. I think I can put my foot by my head and do it this way.
Yes.
And they have a different affordance for whatever movement you're trying to ask of them. So in relation to like what you were just talking about, it just depends on the setter. Maybe they don't even see an option because they don't have that affordance. And maybe the entire crew didn't see that because they haven't ever, like, tried something like that before. And then the comp kid comes in, is like, oh, dude, I'm going to do it whatever way. And they totally break it. And then the kid learns something, and the team learns something, and off you go. And it's not perfect, but it is still teaching things. So I think that's, kind of also what I was getting at.
Yeah, no, I've never thought of it that way, of like the kind of your lived experience, your strength, your body is going to make you see so many things differently. Like maybe you have insane finger strength. You're like, well, I'm crimping that terrible foot chip. Or you have hyper flexibility. You're like, what do you mean I have to do that? You can just put your foot over your head.
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, we see that all the time in comp setting because kids are now like, sick, I'm going to crimp this volume edge. I'm like, okay, I guess we're going to have to start hot gluing the volume edges more. This is great.
Yeah. You see the setters over there like,
no, we did that at divisionals. Hot glue the volume edge. Yep. It was great. Because kids see crazy things. So
they do. Yeah. This episode was brought to you by the Climbing Wall Association. The CWA offers certifications for route setting, climbing wall instruction, and work at height to help you level up in your career. Learn more at cwapro.org. Going back to the question of what has coaching taught you that setting couldn't, and what has setting taught you that coaching couldn't. Yeah, there we go. We're back on track.
No, we're back on track. Everything's great. Yeah. So I think coaching is kind of a lens into how climbers think. And obviously that's different depending on who you're coaching and what levels you're coaching and what age you're coaching. But that insight into how kids are thinking from coaching is really cool to then bring into route setting, because you kind of see that process happening in a practice or in a mock round, and then you get to talk to them about it of like, okay, I saw you do whatever movement and then you changed it this way. What was the thought process in your brain while you were doing that? And that's really cool to have that insight into like how kids are thinking about things and how they arrive at a movement solution, because then you can take that into whatever you're route setting, comp land, or just like a regular old commercial set, and you have that background of, okay, here's kind of the process that they're using to think about this movement or think about a boulder or think about a rope climb, like, then you can kind of figure out, okay, I want to challenge the movement skill, or I want to challenge the thought process, or I want to challenge whatever else. I want to challenge both at the same time. Having that background from coaching is really cool to bring into setting, because you can kind of nitpick a lot more.
It goes so far beyond, like, you know, maybe I'm setting a regionals and I call up the local coach and I'm like, hey, how tall is Little Bubba? Or what is Little Bubba climbing these days? Like, that goes so far beyond, like, oh, I guess he climbs 12A. Like, maybe 12A would challenge him. But what style of 12A? If he's scared, what is he going to do on that 12A? Like, is it a run and jump that he's just going to hesitate and bumble? Or is it like a rock climb that he's just going to smash because he's a rock climber? And, you know, that goes so far beyond, you know, the average setter and their conversations. It's kind of giving me ideas of how to approach this next youth season.
Ooh, amazing.
Yes.
Very good.
Part of me running this podcast is so selfish where I'm just like,
Oh, yeah.
What can I learn from my guests? Okay.
Give me all the ideas.
Yes, exactly. Next up, I want to talk about athletic empathy, because as setters, we are taught that again and again in both, like, for kids and for, you know, the new climber who is coming into the gym for the first time, or, you know, maybe an older climber who's lost strength, flexibility. How do you kind of set for them? So how does athletic empathy look for you on the coaching versus the setting side? Like, is it the same skill but expressed differently, or is it something entirely distinct?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty similar skill, just different depending on which version you're playing with on any given day. Like, if you're in setting land, we're meeting kids where they're at physically, mentally, developmentally, because physically, like, if you're a U15 girl, you have vice grips on noodles. Like, that's kind of the average, typically. So you have to kind of set to the strengths developmentally of the kids. But also you're thinking about, like, okay, do they have the movement repertoire to figure this out? Or do they even have the ability to, like, go through these different solutions in their brain, and can they be that methodical? Can they be just, like, calm under pressure? So all these other things, maybe, depending developmentally. So, like, from a route setting perspective, it's still strength, developmental, like, where the brain's at. Coaching is same thing. Like, if you're talking about developing, like, a practice plan, we're still thinking about physical ability, because you don't want to push kids too hard. You don't want to push them not enough. And you're still thinking, like, developmentally, are they going to collectively be able to, like, stay engaged in this thing? Are they going to be, like, training, or are they just having fun? Like, kind of depends on age and skill level and, like, commitment level. And then, like, the success versus failure rate. Are they able to deal with failure during a practice, or do they have to top every boulder? So, like, knowing kind of where the kids are at for, like, a strength and developmental and a mental level for coaching is also super important. It just kind of expresses itself differently depending on which version of the thing you're doing. So,
yeah, that's really cool. Like, I think as a setter, you know, you know a few things. Like, okay, don't give a U15 category a one arm. Like, one arm moves, like, all bicep, you're gonna get a bottleneck right there. But one thing that I've really tried to force myself to notice this last season was, if failure happens, is there an age group that is more likely to cry? Because, you know, you never want to see a kid cry at your comp. You want to give them enough success, but challenge them a little bit. And that was just one thing that I kind of started noticing more or less last season. Is there an age group that's more likely to cry in the face of failure? And that has kind of pushed me to think about athletic empathy a little bit differently and dive into the coaching side a little bit more, which I normally don't, of, like, why are these kids more likely to cry? Like, is it the same kids or is it different every time? Like, is it because of the set or is it because of pressure from their coaches, from their parents, from themselves? Like, I mean, this in itself is just a whole episode, just talking about athletic empathy. Yeah.
Athletic empathy could for sure be its own episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's so crazy to think about it, because, like, at a base level, from a setting perspective, athletic empathy is just like, okay, can everyone reach this thing? And also, could everyone do this thing on any given day? But it's so much deeper than that, and there's so much more nuance than just, can everyone reach this one thing, and also, can you hold it once you get there kind of deal. There's, like, the developmental aspect, and the mental aspect, and the pressure, and the just everything is compounding, and it totally depends on, like, the category, and a bajillion other things.
So, too many things. Yeah, too many
so many things.
Yeah. This episode was brought to you by Trango. Trango's climbing holds are shaped by iconic industry setters because great holds start with the people who actually set with them. Learn more at trango.com. You know, building off of the concept of athletic empathy, let's say I'm training with my friend who is 6'2" and he can reach a boulder problems hold and I have to crimp these foot chips or whatnot. And, you know, I might feel like, oh man, like it's not fair. Yeah. Like, you know, that feeling comes up frequently in setting and in climbing. So as a coach, how would you approach this differently than as a setter? Like if I was one of your kids and I'm like, well, little Bubba can reach that and I can't. Like, how does that translate into the linguistic aspect of how you explain things?
Yeah. So for some reason, we have a lot of very small humans for their age on our team. They're very tiny. For whatever reason. So I end up having this conversation a lot with a lot of our kids. And the messaging typically is like, hey, dude, I know that you are maybe not as, like, tall as these other kids. You, too, can find other ways around things. And it might be weirder. It might be something that you're going to have to think outside the box for. But at the end of the day, that's going to still get you the same potential result. So, like, let's work towards being more creative or figuring out, like, ways around things. Let's get more flexible. Let's get really good at standing in T-nuts on the wall. There's ways that you can get around things for every height or strength. Because the same thing with in climbing, it's very frequently the other way around, where the short people are like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. Or like, I can't do this, it's not fair. There's stuff for tall people too, like if you're trying to fit yourself in a teeny tiny box. You're like, oh my gosh, my foot has to be where? I gotta put it in my face. And so even for that end of the spectrum, it's like, okay, friends, we're gonna work on flexibility. We're gonna work on ankle mobility. We're gonna work on these other things and figure out how to acquire those affordances that shorter people might have. So it's just, there's a lot of talking in my coaching. We do a lot of yapping.
I think that's a good thing, though. Like, I wouldn't want a coach that's just a face of stone. Like,
Yeah. Do it again.
Do it again. But why?
No.
Just do it again.
Just do it again. Yeah, 0% my coaching style.
Yes.
There's a lot of chatting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Going back to what you said about, like, building resilience in kids, like, this is a life skill. Life isn't fair. We're all born 100%. With a different set of circumstances. Like, I might not be able to reach the hold that my 6'2" friend can, but I can do the sit start much easier.
Yeah.
Getting my butt off the ground is going to be much easier. Like, it's just, affordances, emotional resilience, everything ties together. Yeah.
It all is connected.
Okay. Talking about just going back to blending of disciplines, you work in the intersection of coaching and setting so much, but are there any points in which you think that they could be a little bit more separate? Like, is there a climb that you think might look great on a quote-unquote setting portfolio, but might be a terrible situation for a coaching environment? Is there another way around? Like, how does that look?
Honestly, I think that all climbs can have something useful to teach, regardless of, like, cool, it's a kinder climb thing, and it's 3 feet off the ground at maximum, and we're only traversing. Like, yeah, that still has something to teach a specific demographic of kids. Is it going to look good on a setting portfolio? Like, maybe. Because then on your setting portfolio, you have, hey, I can also set for 5-year-olds. But it depends on what you're using that setting portfolio for. So if you're like, hey, I want to set nationals, and you have a kinder climb boulder on there, like, yeah, maybe not. But does show range, I guess. But I would say, like, honestly, there's not really a bad climb to teach something on, and there's not really something that shouldn't go on a setting portfolio. Maybe that's like a one mover that you set at BEA, and it's like, cool, we set this one move, it was super sick, and then we just set the one move, it was just that. Like, that's still a cool thing to teach kids on, and that's why we set them, because it's just, hey, repetition, we're gonna try this and try this and try this and try this. Maybe it doesn't look great on a setting portfolio for a comp or for, like, a commercial set, but maybe that's for someone who's, like, specifically looking for a dyno specialist. And you're like, hey, I need someone who's really good at coordination. Look at all these cool one-movers I set, and they're all coordination. I mean, it's all situation dependent, I guess. But at the end of the day, I don't think there's any bad boulders.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Okay. We talked about, like, the technical side of this a bit. Let's talk about the people side, right? I'm sure you work with a lot of other setters. You work with a lot of other coaches, right? The environments of setter and setter chit-chatting versus coaches and coaches chit-chatting is going to look different. Is there a tension that between what makes a good coaching environment versus what makes a good setting environment? Again, are these two the same thing? Are they interchangeable? Are they blended?
Yeah. I think they're pretty similar, honestly. Obviously, the setting environment is going to be different because it's adults only, and coaching, there's a lot of kids involved. And maybe you're coaching adults, but for my purposes, setting up is mostly adults and coaching is mostly kids. But I think it is very much like the atmosphere of, like, collaboration and creativity and, like, shenanigans is how I can describe it.
Yes.
Because if you think about a really good setting environment, you're all trying to be, like, super collaborative and really creative and find stuff that's outside the box and really cool and really fun. And there's just permanently some shenanigans happening. And I think that atmosphere of, like, playfulness can be really helpful for a setting crew, especially if you're like, hey, we're in Compland, we're on day 5, we've been here for 13 hours, you gotta have some shenanigans in there, otherwise it's gonna be miserable. And so the boulders you're setting on day 5 at hour 13 still have to be high quality and still have to be fun and still have to be playful. How do you do that? Acquire the shenanigans. And whether that's like, okay, we're doing, like, some sort of goofy setting game, or we're just gonna, like, collaborative set a boulder. Just something to have that kind of playful aspect. And then on the flip side, if you're coaching, they're kids. Like, at the end of the day, they're still kids. So we require some shenanigans, and they're gonna be different shenanigans. But that kind of, like, creative collaboration of coaches. So specifically, like, at BEA, it's like me and Mike. We're kind of bouncing stuff off of each other all the time during practice. Like, hey, did you check in with this one kid? Or like, hey, what do you think about this thing that we're doing right now? Could we, like, change that? Or do we want to, like, make it different? Or do we want to, like, follow this one thing that we've been doing and we're going to follow that down the rabbit hole until the kids are bored of it? Or do we want to swap? And they're kids, so shenanigans are always fun, like having, like, handshakes with the kids or, like, goofy things that you're doing during practice. Just the levity of that, I think, also just helps keep climbing fun, because at the end of the day, climbing should be fun and route setting should be fun. So I think, the shenanigans are important.
Now I'm tempted to make that the title of the episode.
Shenanigans are important.
Shenanigans, yes. A setting
I do
team
use
without
that word.
shenanigans, yes,
Yeah.
is not a setting team I want to be part of. It has to have maximum levels of shenanigans.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, what is the point? Yeah,
What is
I
the
quit.
point?
I'm out. Yeah,
Yeah. No, you must have shenanigans. Otherwise,
absolutely.
just no.
Yeah. This episode is brought to you by Rooney. Out of Norway, Rooney makes chalk and apparel for climbers, inspired by YouTuber Magnus Midtbo. Learn more at rooney.com. Okay, I'm looking at your career and how you approach things, and I'm way, I'm kind of seeing it as an ideal, right, of the understanding between setting and coaching, because we are setting for a lot of these kids. Do you think there's a version of setting education that should involve coaching fundamentals? Like, I know setting is a very new industry, and there are so many ways that we have yet to see the industry and the craft and the profession develop into what it can be. Like, do you see this as part of the future of setting education?
I think it definitely has a place. Because if we're thinking about, like, your average setter going to coach or your average coach going to set, those two things, while a lot of us do that, it's not necessarily intuitive to go back and forth between the two. So, like, if we're talking about setting education requiring some sort of coaching component, I think that's really important, because setters tend to coach in a very certain way if you're not told or shown how to do it differently. And setters, if you set first and then you become a coach, we tend to exist in the land of coaching as if we're talking to a crew of forerunners. And that's not, in my opinion, that's not, like, the best way to coach kids, especially because you're not coaching a crew of forerunners. You're coaching kids who are then going to go to a comp. And depending on the style of the comp, if your aspirations are, like, a divisionals or a regionals, like, you don't get to talk to your coach while you're in ISO. You're sitting in the chair and you're like, okay, now I get to turn around and climb this boulder. And you don't have your coach there to be like, okay, here's how to do this move. And a lot of setters who coach tend towards that kind of style of coaching of, like, okay, I know how to do this move and I know how to do this climb because I set it. So here I will bequeath you the knowledge of how to do this climb. Whereas if we're thinking about it from a coaching perspective, that's not necessarily going to be the best way to coach kids who are, like, in it for comp stuff, because they have to be self-sufficient and they have to figure things out on their own. So at the end of the day, coach people are coming at it, like, a very different way than the setting people. So we gotta maybe merge those things in the middle, and maybe the setting education is just a basic, like, hey, children are not small adults and they're also not small forerunners. Let's talk about how to, very briefly, even just like, hey, let's ask leading questions. Instead of giving the answer right away, let's ask the questions to help kids get to the end goal that you already know because you set the boulder. But let's ask them questions and help kind of, like, lead them down that path as opposed to putting the path directly in front of them. Because I think that is really important for development of youth athletes specifically, because we're not asking them to exist in a land where they can just turn to their coach and be like, hey, how do I do this thing? We're asking them to go do a on-site round and they don't get to ask for help. So just setting kids up for success that way. Maybe just a setter having that little bit of background of, okay, this is how coaches are maybe coaching. Let's go that way instead of here's the beta. I think it would be a great idea to have that part of setting education. I don't know if we're there yet in terms of, like, setting is so new still. In my ideal world, everyone would have a little bit of that background. Ideally, the coaches have some setting background and the setters have some coaching background. just so there's like some common knowledge that we all have. But even coaching as a career is even like climbing coaching as a career is so new. And we all are still kind of winging it as we're going. And there's a lot more research than there was like 10 years ago, but we're still kind of winging it. So I think, just like if both of those certs could have a little bit of the other one involved, would be sick.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I've thought about this too. Like in my ideal world, would this be a component of the L1 and L2s? Like, would, before you start chiefing QEs going into your L3s, like, do you have this knowledge of not just what you just described, but also the athletic empathy to be like, maybe don't give a U13 a quadruple paddle in a QE. They're not going to have fun on that. They don't have the skills. And they can't really look for an answer that isn't there for their age group, their development, their skills, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, in an ideal world, I'd love that to be a part of the L1s and 2s. Yeah.
Yeah, in an ideal world. Who knows if that's going to happen in the next year,
Yeah, exactly. One can hope that in the future that will happen, but who knows? Yeah. Okay, I'm coming up to the end of my questions that I prepared. However, I have two more left for you. The first one being, if there is someone out there who is looking to kind of follow in a career path similar to yours to blend that coaching and route setting discipline, what advice would you have for this person?
Yeah, I think... sorry. I was reading a thing and my brain was a squirrel.
Short circuit. It's okay.
Can you repeat the question?
No problem. If there's someone out there who kind of wants to follow in what you're doing with blending the coaching and the setting disciplines, what advice would you have for them?
Yeah, I think if you're a setter and you're kind of coming into it from the setting side of things, start kind of keeping in mind youth climbers as you're setting commercial sets. That's like sizing and strength and like capacity for movement learning, like all of those things. Like start thinking about that as you're going into your setting days and watch kids climb your boulders. I think that's one of the biggest things for me, and like one of the best ways that I know right now to go see how kids climb is watch them climb rocks and then climb them how they climb the rocks. Because that will give you a lot of, athletic empathy. Because if you're like, whoa, you're doing what with this crimp? Okay, cool. Now we know. Go climb rocks like kids and watch kids climb your rocks, and you'll learn a lot that way. And if you're kind of a coach going into setting from the other side of things, just practice setting on a spray wall or like a moon board or a tension board or a kilter board. And just practice doing that for like your own movement repertoire, and like maybe have some kids climb the stuff that you're trying to make and see how that goes. And it's also really helpful for like if you, I don't know if you've been to the nationals and they have sometimes like the spray wall and that's what you get to warm up. And if you're a coach, you're trying to help your kids warm up on a spray wall that you have probably never seen before, or maybe you've seen it like once a year for the last 3 years. Like that ability to start setting things or like point out movement, or hey, your kid says, I want a, I don't know, paddle dyno. And you're like, oh, I've never set a paddle dyno before. Having that background of, okay, I kind of know how to put a sequence of holds on the wall as a coach, that can be really helpful, and they kind of start to merge that way. Yeah,
I think that's great advice. Like, yeah, I'll be taking that coaching side, the setting side advice more of just really, really paying attention. I mean, I go to every comp that I set, but really paying attention to like what and how they're doing it, not just did they do the intended sequence. Did I get good separation? Like, there's so much more to look beyond those things. My last question for you, I actually didn't write this down, but I just thought of it because, you know how kids say silly things sometimes? I had a kid tell me that his mom is a drug dealer. She's a pharmacist.
Oh, very good.
I'm wondering if you have
same.
any examples of these silly things that kids might say that adults will immediately misunderstand? I have to clarify. Your mom is a what?
Oh my god. Your mom is a drug dealer. Not off the top of my head, unfortunately. Which is really unfortunate because that one is hysterical.
She's a pharmacist.
Yeah. I think the latest one that was not like an explanation version, but I just remember it because it was really funny. And kinderclimb, because it's always kinderclimb.
Yeah.
I am quite tall, so I like have to crouch down to like talk with these small humans on their level. So I'm like crouching down talking to one of these little teeny humans, and she just looks up at me, and we're talking about this like one climb, and I don't even remember what it was at this point, but I just had crouched down and was talking about the climb and about footwork, I think, and she just looks up at me and was like, "Why do you have so many wrinkles?" And I was like, you know, so it happens when you smile a lot. I think that's maybe my most recent entertainment value.
Sometimes kids will say things and you know they haven't quite learned the social.
I know.
And you're like, ooh, I had a kid once ask me why I was a routesetter if I have a master's degree. And I'm
amazing.
Like, that one hurt. You're hurting me right now, emotionally.
Oh my god.
What's wrong?
You did what?
You're just like, I know you're not meaning it.
I know
in
you don't know that
way.
yet.
Yes.
but
it hurt.
Yeah, so I think that was my most entertaining one was the wrinkle commentary. So, yeah.
Man, I'm just trying to put myself in that
happy.
kid's shoes where they saw something and they have to comment on it and they have no idea. Yeah.
Dude, and 5-year-olds have no filter. There's no filter anywhere, which is great.
They don't understand, yeah.
Oh my god, it's
funny.
like half the reason I love working with the like 5-year-olds is just there's just no filter. They say what is in their brain, and it is amazing.
Yeah.
I aspire slightly to be more like a 5-year-old sometimes.
I know, it's not just the no filter, but it's the childish wonder they use to look at the world. Everything's new.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's like, they come in every single time and there's new boulders and it's like, oh my god, new boulders!
So excited.
Yeah, dude. I'm psyched.
New boulders that I set for you.
Yeah, it's amazing. I know, it's crazy.
Yeah. Okay, I think this is a wonderful way to close the episode. Thank you so much. I feel like I've learned so much just by talking to you. I think our audience is going to learn so much just by listening to this. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This has been super fun.
Alright, I hope I'll be able to sling some plastic with you someday. I'm sure we'll cross paths at some point.
Sometime. I hope we cross paths eventually.
And that's it for today. Thank you for listening, sharing, and supporting another episode of the Impact Driver Podcast. A huge thank you to our guests for joining us and sharing their time and insight, as well as to our sponsors for making these conversations possible. New episodes come out monthly, and you can find past conversations wherever you listen. Be sure to check out the show notes for relevant links, and subscribe to CBJ at climbingbusinessjournal.com to never miss a new episode. If you'd like to nominate someone as a future guest, suggest a topic, or reach out with questions, we'd love to hear from you. You can contact me and our producers by emailing info@climbingbusinessjournal.com or by filling out the pitch form in our show notes. The Impact Driver Podcast is a production of the Climbing Business Journal. I'm your host, Holly Chen. This episode was edited and produced by myself, Scott Rennick, Joe Robinson, and Megan Cheek, with theme music by Devin Dabney. Thanks again for tuning in.